She was once the heart of the European socialist movement. Brilliant theorist, eloquent agitator, fearless fighter, and emancipated woman in the midst of a male-dominated society. Rosa Luxemburg. I say she would be needed today like never before. If she were here now, she would look around in horror at the growing power of autocrats and populists. The wars that are once again devouring everything and dividing and polarizing humanity. Rosa would see all this, but she would not despair. No, she would give everything for people and peace, even her life. Even though Rosa has been dead for 105 years, she's exactly the person we need today. And I'll tell you why. When Rosa Luxemburg had already been in prison for 2 years, convicted of political agitation, she received a letter from Sophie Liebknecht, whose brother Karl was also imprisoned. As so often, her friend wrote from a gloomy, anxious mood, but Rosa replied to her from her cell.
Sonjusha, dearest, be calm and cheerful in spite of everything. That's how life is, and that's how you have to take it. Bravely, undaunted and smiling, despite everything.
At that point, Rosa had 1 more year in prison and 2 years to live. Her cheerfulness was genuine because she loved life, and because life for her inevitably meant politics. She was passionate about politics. She fought on the street and refused to be intimidated, not by the Freikorps, not by the police, not even by death threats and prison sentences. Rosa was a self-determined woman, an academic, a socialist, a critique of capitalism and militarism, a Jew, although not a practicing one, and a Democrat. Everything that the armed autocratic and authoritarian German Reich feared. Others were fascinated by her passion, which is why she became such a great speaker, the figurehead of the socialists and the terror of the rulers who wished to eliminate her. In January 1919, she was arrested by Freikorps soldiers, shot and thrown into the Landwehr Canal. When she was beaten during interrogation, she refused to be intimidated. She remained defiant in answering the uniformed officers' questions. Her concern was for others and the socialist idea, rarely for herself. Her views alternated between humanist and extremist, never smoothly logical, never free of contradiction, entirely in keeping with her own character. Passion and fanaticism are sometimes separated by a fine line, and Rosa Luxemburg certainly crossed it more than once. She opposed Lenin's revolution in Russia, which she foresaw as the beginning of a reign of terror. She fought for individual rights and general elections. On the other side, she also proclaimed that revolution had to be enforced by all means. Anyone in favor of the National Assembly was running after a ridiculous petit bourgeois illusion. She fought for the dictatorship of the proletariat in the form of democratic socialism. The party leaders of the GDR later carried her image in front of them as a propaganda icon. On the anniversary of Rosa Luxemburg's death in January 1988, the caterers also held their annual tribute, when suddenly at the very back of the procession, dissidents protested against the unjust state with Luxemburg's famous quote, "Freedom is always the freedom to dissent." Rosa Luxemburg did not allow herself to be appropriated by anyone. And the decisive factor was that Rosa Luxemburg was not an apparatchik. She was human through and through, torn, indecisive, sometimes desperate. She suffered a great deal from her unhappy love affairs with her partners, from what she perceived as a betrayal of people and ideals, and from what she actually wanted in life. She occasionally doubted whether she had been born for politics or not to be a goose shepherd. She wanted a home and a child, but her passion always drove her into politics, onto the streets, to the rallies. When the First World War broke out, she carried thoughts of suicide around with her. Her cheerfulness came from deep within a torn, wounded soul. It did not come to her naturally. She had to fight for it again and again, every day. Even in dark times, she embraced life. She rejoiced like a child when her friend sent her pressed flowers to her cell. She loved music and literature. She was so fond of her cat Mimi. There was almost a friendship with Lenin, because when he visited, Mimi seemed to like him at first, but then scratched him. For the new year, she wrote an angry greeting to the Social Democrat Mathilde Wurm.
See that you remain human. Being human is above all the main thing. Being human means throwing your whole life joyfully on the great scales of fate if you have to, but at the same time rejoicing in every bright day and every beautiful cloud. I don't know how to write recipes on how to be human. I only know how to be.
She fought for the socialist idea. She struggled with her own fears and dreams, but even in dark times, she embraced life. And if Rosa were here today, she would probably call on us to remain human, despite everything. And as Lassalle said, the most revolutionary act is and remains to always say out loud what really is. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe.